we will look into my theory on what will happen in the war in Ukraine, which is becoming more clear. After the big, Ukrainian counteroffensives, which seem to be doing pretty well and showing more of what will happen. This is an approximation of the front lines, and by the looks, it looks as if, Ukrainian forces and that retaken Kharkiv will push into Luhansk. With the way Russia's been losing lots of land for the last while, they probably will have a better holding, but not a great one, losing land. And then in Kherson, probably won't be very fast, but they will push them back towards the city of Kherson, or the regional capital. Russia might send in more forces, but it doesn't really matter because all their modern equipment was left there. And it doesn't matter. And most likely in Donetsk, they will push to the city of Donetsk and have a battle over it. And likely the battle will end in a Ukrainian victory. And that would be a fall of lands that have been occupied by Russia since 2014. And they would probably work to try and encircle them, leading to the Russians removing troops. And they would probably pause their campaign there, because most likely during that time, Russia would be making a bit of gains in the south. With the rebellious provinces of Luhansk and Donetsk not faring so well, and Russian forces getting pushed farther back, exhausted from the war, and with low morale, they break through Russians' front lines again, and they push down, which will probably take the city of Kherson back. Getting Russia to move troops. But then they'll start another campaign into Zaporizhzhia to, take more lands. And at this point, it seems like, Russia may have already lost the war. And most likely both of the rebellious provinces will be liberated, with pushes even further into Luhansk. And in the south, they'll continue pushing them. And then Donetsk will continue falling back. And within months, the south Russia will still be trying to negotiate peace terms, but to no avail. And they probably wouldn't want to make this conflict any bigger than it is. But they'll probably move more supplies in, hoping to take a bit of land, but due to the fact that Ukraine has high morale, won't get them anywhere. And, well, they'll continue. They'll continue their push slowly. And at this point, it'll probably just be a slow conflict. And they'll probably be trying to liberate Crimea. But they're still getting supported, so while Russia's economy now, since it's in the future, is starting to cripple. And they start getting pushed back. With Crimea almost being fully taken. So now Russian forces, well, they push down and they enter Crimea. Which Russia would probably use as a justification to send more forces in. And they will push back into Ukraine for the people with a higher morale. But due to the fact all the weapons have been destroyed, well, not much is going to happen. Well, at this point, Moldova probably seeing Russia as no threat will probably retake Transnistria with Romanian support. Well, now Russia is probably taking more forces out of South Ossetia and Abkhazia, out of Syria. They're probably taking them out of Libya. And, well, they're probably losing allies. But with Russia, fully mobilized, sending all their forces in. Which, at this point, doesn't really matter. Basically pushes back the Donbass region over in the south and up. With this being, well, the furthest Russia can get into Ukraine. And most likely, since Russia would be so weak at this time, with the counterattacks causing, well, more uprisings and stronger partisan movements, which effectively will connect with the Ukrainian army in advances. Most likely Ukraine would use a HIMARS system at this point to take out the bridge here, so that Russia will struggle to resupply. Because most likely at this point, well, Russia would have no naval or air superiority. And, well, they wouldn't be stealing grain because they wouldn't be able to. And, well, Ukraine encircles these forces, which end up surrendering. But Russia will still try to continue advancing at a snail's pace. Well, they push along the coast. With an attempt trying to push troops right to Ukraine to connect with Crimea, but they get encircled. They hopefully dig trenches and hold it, but then Ukraine, which hopefully manages to push them back. which we could likely see a re-liberation of Mariupol coming at this point, which is like a while into the future. Might happen quicker. But then Ukrainian forces will start pushing down into their last stronghold out of Crimea. And this area of Russian forces, with the Russian people increasingly growing sick of this war. And with Luhansk's forces falling back, Luhansk and Russian forces. And, well, the front lines collapsing, with Ukraine sending demands for, with Ukraine demanding all of these territories, which Russia is unwilling to accept. So it leads to even more fighting. But Russia does still have forces, it's just running low, and they push back. But with forces becoming more focused. And at this point, well, the West probably is not viewing Russia as a power anymore. With other areas of the world, with Iran and North Korea still strongly supporting Russia. With the West, all the West still strongly supporting Ukraine. This is about months in the future. But this is assuming Ukraine keeps offensives going. With Russia's troops stalling out. And while eventually Ukraine pushes down into Donetsk, lots of Russian forces quickly flee, but while they're fleeing, Ukraine encircles them, much like what Russia was doing to Napoleon. And while they keep pushing, and then they enter into Donetsk, with Ukraine taking over this territory. And then encircling Mariupol again. And a bloody siege and taking it back. With Russia sending a bunch of conscripts in to the northeast. And while they push in, and they put conscripts in Luhansk, pushing back. And they would probably put conscripts in the north. In the south, I mean, in Crimea. But with Ukraine having devised plans to enter Crimea, which they go ahead with. Basically, with Russia missing a lot of supply, unable to supply, they get pushed out and encircled, with Ukraine seizing lots of weapons. But then the slowest part comes, as well. The advance into Crimea doesn't go so fast, and they push in, occupy the land, but then Russia comes and pushes them back. And then they go back in, getting even farther, with Russia pushing them back, repelling the invasion attempts. Well, Luhansk starts, and these conscripts are kicked out. Ukraine, seeing opportunity to cut off Russian supply lines, do enter Russian territory, but to cut off supply lines, which Russia is upset about, obviously. With Russian forces having to be reorganized, Ukraine continues its offensive into Luhansk. And they do put a bit of it but the Chechens seek opportunity from this. And well, they declare independence. And then, well, this other, semi-autonomous area also leaves. Which is not seen well by the Russian people. With Putin losing grip off the minorities. With Ukraine gaining more land from there. Russia loses another ethnic minority area, which is Karelia. Well, another area, Yakuts in the Far East, would likely try to get a bit of freedom and leave. Well, Tanyuva at this point might not want to be under an iron fist anymore, and might say bye. And then we'll have this area declare independence. This is probably the most unrealistic part of this, but it probably would happen if the economy was completely destroyed. Well, with an economy completely destroyed, well, Ukraine takes opportunity and pushes down to here. Well, Russia does manage to push them back a bit. Well, Ukraine still manages to occupy a big area. And well, Donetsk and Luhansk is, well, reduced to 2014. Well, they push into this area, but Russia does counter it with small troop movements, but unable to. Well, they push down, and they manage to fight for Sevastopol and take Sevastopol from Russia. But Russia does manage to encircle them. But Ukraine manages to kick them out by getting them to surrender there. With them in the north, with Russia suffering defeat after defeat, the Russian people turn on Russia. with some Russian forces in this area just refusing the fighting. Deserting gets very high. But advances into the rest of Crimea slow. With a plan to cut off Russian supplying of its troops while they push into here. Which is a successful campaign. And then, well, come out here to cut off supply lines to Luhansk and Donetsk. Of Russia having trouble to control its territory. Well, Russia sends troops to here to kick Ukrainian armed forces out. They send troops kicking Ukraine back there. But with this, leaves a major Russian blow with Donetsk and Luhansk collapsing. Ukraine sends peace to Russia, but Russia refuses. And they manage to gain a bit of land into Luhansk and Donetsk, but it's to nothing. Well, the war is pretty much, and then they push in with Russia on its knees. Russia moves forces down there and managed to kick them back to here. But it was at the sacrifice of these lands. And with Russia finally, well, overthrowing and reorganizing its government system, well, the new government of this pretty much dead Russia, well, surrenders. And, well, Russia's internal problems lead to, well, a lot of problems. And they retake the Donbass region, annex a bit of territory there as well. They take back Crimea. And well, they annex some land there and annex some land here. And Ukraine then joins, well, the EU and NATO. And then Ukraine is free once again, which is great. And they become, well, this. And thank you for viewing. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Wild Mapper out.